joined and are joined by my friends and colleagues, and we will be talking about the theme of economic justice. For the full 11-day summit schedule, to see the recordings and to register for free, go to 11daysofglobalunity.org or go to we.net. Rick Ulfik is the founder of the world at we.net and the co-creator of 11 Days of Global Unity. Rick can't be here today for health reasons. However, he sends his love and best wishes. 11 Days of Global Unity goes from the anniversary of the tragedy of September 11th to September 21st, the celebration of the International Day of Peace, commemorating our collective journey from fear to hope. To take action with the 11 campaigns for change, Trends Magazine with editor Robert Levine, and all the work of We the World, go to we.net. Now it is my pleasure to introduce my friends and welcome to the broadcast, everyone. So how are we all doing? We got through our tech issues and we're joined here from my friends in Ohio, Arizona, and Uganda.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So we have Brian Mallory, Peter Horth, Jack Strasberg, and Robert, I never know how to say your last name. Can you say it for us?
MSJ?
J.
Yes.
All right. And so today we're talking about economic justice, and it's a very huge theme. As the coordinator, I have had the pleasure of joining with the Poor People's Campaign, and I am on the coordinating committee along with Brian Mallory, who's I believe you're in Cleveland?
Yes, I am. North Coast, heart of the land.
Yay!
USA.
And Peter Horth, who's on the outreach committee with me. Jack is with We the World. He's the project director for Conscious Business Project. And Robert is a doctor in Uganda with our weekend teams. And he is going to be talking about the situation he's working with in the refugee camps. So I thought we could just have a casual go around. Let's start with Jack, because I'm feeling especially kind of sorry for him because he just had hip replacement surgery. And amazing as that is, he only spent one night in the hospital, correct, Jack?
Right.
Before his surgery, we were talking about hip surgery, and I was telling him all the horror stories, which is not what which is what you're not supposed to do before somebody has surgery. I had a rather a worse situation, maybe, because both of my hips were in such terrible shape, so I had to go to aftercare. So that was no fun, and I didn't have anyone around to take care of me. So Jack, how you doing?
I'm doing quite well, given what I've been through. But yeah, doing well.
You able to get around any? Do you have a walker? Is that what you're using to get around?
Yeah, I have a walker. I can walk on my own somewhat, but the walker is what I use most of the time.
Are you on what level? Because that helps. Remember how I had to spend time learning in the PT, the physical therapy area, learning how to go up the steps and down the steps, up the steps, down the steps.
Yeah, I have a home care person coming in. In fact, she came in yesterday and she thought I was progressing rather well.
So like next week you'll be playing tennis, huh?
I wish. I'm hoping at least in a few months.
Well, it'll be before that. And I'll go to Brian and Peter. Let's see, in June, we had our big mass rally in Washington, D.C. And Brian, you were a big part of that. Weren't you also a speaker at that? Or is that the one in Cleveland I'm thinking about?
Actually, the June 18th mass meeting and low wage workers gathering into the polls in DC, I was not a speaker that day.
But you have been a speaker.
Well, yes, I've been given that privilege from time to time. Thank you for mentioning that. But yeah, that was I'm really just in awe and honored to be here with this group, and very curious as to what's going on in other places. I mean, there's so much going on now across the world that we need to be unified and aware and breaking down the barrier. So I'm going to step back a little bit. I tend to be a bit verbose, so.
Verbose, is that the word you used?
Yeah, I talk too much.
Not yet.
And Peter, you're a minister.
Yes, so that's right. And I really appreciate Brian, what he said about just the world and how much the world needs to come together. And this whole idea of we the world is new to me, but I really am glad to be part of this assembly. And we also have our big kickoff for the Poor People's Campaign, September 19th, the 50 days of get out the vote. So that's a big day for us. There's going to be a Moral Monday gathering to bring that off. So
yeah, I see we meet tomorrow night to start doing training. And then I think it was either Monday night or Tuesday night that no, it must have been Monday night when Reverend Barber was working with the Jackson, Mississippi situation with their terrible water situation. So he really does get involved. And I know that Reverend Liz will be a part of, I think, the World Unity Week celebration that she'll be speaking about our imperiled democracy. And so I'm really glad to see that that the Poor People's Campaign is able to connect with World Unity Week and in Tennessee, which I hope that we will be working with them more because they are very connected. So so we'll talk more about what the Poor People's Campaign and what Jack's doing, but I want to have Robert step in here.
Yes, I'm very excited to be on this call to hear about. I mean, the work that we do at Poor People's Campaign is very important, but we also want to be in solidarity with those other folks that are tending to the needs of the poor and those that don't have power, and refugees, and what's going on there is extremely important and affects everyone. And we're really, I personally am very just getting goosebumps being on this call and waiting to hear what Dr. Robert has to say and the tremendous work he's doing in Uganda.
Yes, and it's also quite a bit later for him too.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
Thank you,
also,
sir.
and also I want to say Robert is a new father again with everything that's been going on with him. He now has a new daughter named Deborah, and she was quite big. So that was quite an experience for him and his wife. But everything is going well, he tells me. So Robert, you have the floor. Tell about what you do in Uganda and all of the incredibly, oh my gosh, a horrible story there with the all the people fleeing, pregnant women giving birth. It's just such a sad situation, and we're so grateful to know someone who's working there with those people and helping them. So go ahead, Robert.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk with you. I'm very much impressed to feel connected with the world. Really, I didn't know that I can get connected to some people from Ohio, some people from other states in America. So what I'm doing here in Uganda, I'm a climate activist. I'm a health worker by profession. I have been working in the refugee settlement for over 10 years. And recently this year, in our neighboring country, Congo, they started a conflict, rebels versus government soldiers, and the rebels overpowered the government soldiers. And the people in the community had to escape from that gunfire in the area. So we received very many asylum seekers, over 67,000 people in Uganda, new arrivals at Nyakabanda in Kisoro district in Uganda. So when they were coming, they passed through terrible situation, a real terrible situation, gunshot wounds, water-related diseases, dysentery. They didn't have life-saving utensils, basic needs in their ways. So when they arrived in Uganda, and due to the high influx of the people joining in the reception, so the little resources in the UNHCR got finished. Up to now, they are still trying to look for resources to see that they can cover the basic needs. You find, especially vulnerable ages, pregnant mothers, children under 5 years, they don't have needs. They don't, like pregnant mothers, they don't have sanitary pads. For example, when they are giving birth, and we know that after giving birth, you are supposed to pad. And even those childbearing age, they fail to get sanitary pads. Shelter is poor. So we are trying with the other organization to see that the situation cools, but every day the number comes, the number increases. So we are highly inviting anyone, any well-wisher who wish to do something towards saving these young children from malnutrition, from acute poverty, from diseases related to sanitation. So the situation is not easy. The UNHCR is calling, and we Uganda were also planning to do a charitable to support these people who are really suffering. I wish if I had enough time, I was going to show video how these people, they come. You come when you don't know if you have your children, if you have your parents. You find the lost parents, you find the lost children. So when they come, we find we are trying to unite them. We are trying to give them medical attention. We are trying to immunize them from corona, from other diseases, communicable diseases on the border. We are trying to assess the malnutrition cases of children under 5 years in the health wise. We are trying to do a first aid to the wounds. We are trying to give food to them to sustain them. And briefly, that is what we are doing. That is what I'm doing now with the volunteers who are trying to help me to achieve a certain goal. And I invite you to support us. Thank you very much.
Robert, I'll throw this link in right now, and maybe let's see, Angel could put it in the chat for us. But yes, we're really hoping we can get donations to help Robert at his camp, and that would be at we.net/donate. they need so much. He and one of our other team members in Tanzania have really been helping with the World Menstruation Project, because young girls and women there don't have access to sanitary pads and other just personal hygiene supplies, soap. It's really, I mean, it's amazing to think that we even have to think about that, but that's the situation they're facing when they're facing fleeing for their lives and they're pregnant, or have just given birth, and young girls. I mean, that's life, and here they are without anything. And then in addition to that, Robert just got over malaria himself. So it's just amazing to think what his team and what he and others are doing in many of the communities in Africa. And not everybody is suffering through a refugee situation, but they're all dealing with the horrible effects of the climate crisis and lack of water, and so many homeless children, just people that are just affected in ways I can't even imagine. So Robert, we'll come back to you, and maybe I hope that there are people watching that will have questions and seeing what they can do to help. And if there were a way for the Poor People's Campaign to work outside of the US, I know that Reverend Barber wants that. Is, the problems are so immense worldwide, but being able to put a face to it. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. If I wanted to just speak a little bit, if I may, and I'm speaking here as an individual, as another person of color that lives in a community that is suffering some of the same challenges, but not nearly at the magnitude. This is an example of what happens. This refugee situation has been going on for quite some time in the Congo and yet in the last year in the global north has been focused on the tragedy going on in Ukraine. I find it really distressing that we that live in the so-called industrialized world, we make policy choices that affect not only us in this country, but internationally. And the lack of attention to this ongoing tragedy that has been going on in Central Africa for quite some time. Uganda is one of many countries that is dealing with these refugees that are being displaced because of the militarism, the lack of investment, the lack of support. And who suffers in those situations? The poorest and those that have the least access to political power. So I don't want to get
especially children and women.
Well, of course, and the elders in our communities. And while I am not at liberty to speak for Reverend Barbara and Reverend Liz, I do know that the Poor People's Campaign is in solidarity with poor people all over the world. We are about moral fusion. This concept, this idea that we speak, that we work for, we want to see globally. The roots of it are Gandhi and King. This is not an exclusively American situation. And for myself, and again, I'm speaking as only one person, as you and Peter know that are part of the Ohio leadership, because you're on the coordinating committee. We must educate and tell these stories to get the word out, to break down those barriers that those in power have arbitrarily constructed. We can do better. We have the resources, but do we have the political will? And do we have the people power necessary, as they say, to require those to do what they would not want to do? So I'm going to step back after giving that little speech. But Brother Wesley, I applaud the work that you're doing. That's really tough, your team. And I'm going to do my part as an individual, and I'm also going to help spread the word amongst the folks where I interact and intersect about what's going on. We should do no less if we call ourselves human beings and moral.
Thank you, Brian. You always speak so eloquently and find the words that I don't seem to be able to find most of the time. And I know you're a tireless worker in Cleveland and all over, and especially for the rights of the LGBTQ community, which is has special meaning for me, being the mother of a trans man, and all the activities, because that goes along with economic justice. So many people in any kind of community that doesn't seem to fit in with whatever.
I
Always.
see Peter's hand up, and I bet you he's going to say everybody has a right to live. 'Cause that's more than just a song for us in the campaign.
Exactly.
Pete.
And Brian, I hope that maybe later, if you want to break into song, you might do so. But Peter, yeah, let's hear from you. Let's jump in.
Thank you. Yeah, everybody does have a right to live. Thank you. And I was just interested in Robert mentioning that he's a climate activist. And
Yes, he is. And with children too. Yeah, he does it all.
Yes. And so in Ohio, we all know, Jan or Brian and I know people who have been impacted by environmental degradation, and climate change is not as prevalent to us right now, but it seems all interrelated. And so a lot of times kids are poisoned by the industrial waste that it's just dumped to our neighborhoods. And I wonder if you could say just a little bit about how much the environment and climate change is related to the huge displacement of people that are experiencing. How of the 67,000 people, are they just fleeing political disruption, or is there a battle for resources because of climate change?
Robert, this is a perfect opportunity for you to talk about your water project that you're working on, in addition to what Peter is asking.
Yes. Thank you very much, Peter, for the wonderful question. These people, when they are coming, they tend to use much plastic. And the amount of plastic going in the field doesn't be collected to go back to the industry for recycling, so they remain in the field. So our initiative, my initiative, what we are doing, we started collecting plastic bottles from the community, those who are disposed in the community, and we gather them in one place. We press mud inside those plastic bottles. Then we use them as bricks to construct water tanks in schools to provide water for those girls who are going in a menstruation period, and they tend to have unhygienic places. So what are we trying to do now to achieve? We are trying now to overcome the plastic pollution in the community, at the same time providing water to the young girls in the schools. At the same time, we are also trying to address the issue of climate change in the area where we are. And when those people, another point, when those people down trees for firewood, charcoal, and construction, I just imagine those people, they are in one place and they want to construct their houses. They will cut very many trees without replacing them. So since 1994, Uganda started receiving refugees, and those refugees, when they are in the place, they tend to change some environmental things, cut trees, overwater consumption, and affecting swamps because of population in one place. So we are also trying to do agroforestry, in the sense that to help them have the nutrition support for those children and heal the land to also help in carbon absorption and increase the rainfall in the area. So I have been working with my fellow volunteers to plant trees, fruit trees in the homesteads, and I have shared photos, achievements with Jana and the team of the tanks we constructed. We didn't have resources to continue constructing tanks because at a certain level, we needed to do some investment like buying bags of cement and getting technical people, technical builder to help us to organize and come up with a good tank. So we didn't have enough resources to continue. We managed to construct 2 water tanks in 2 schools in a single district, Western Uganda. But if we can get any support, we can do more. We can do more to save the planet and to help them have their future generations saved. Thank you.
Yes, before we go on to Jack, I want to say we're going to be working on a website just for the weekend team so that we can really spotlight Burundi, Rwanda, Tanzania, Botswana, Nigeria, all the groups that we work with, because they're all doing amazing climate work, work for children, and you know what Robert does. It's so amazing. I meet with them every Saturday, and it's hard because Robert has a laptop, but most everybody has phones, and most of our hours spent with people falling off their conversations and having to come back, but we still managed to stay in contact with each other. And the way I met Robert was through Tumani, who's in Tanzania, through Didi, who's in Burundi, through the Mother Earth Project, and with Dr. Barton Rubenstein, who's in Washington, D.C. And that's a whole other story, but yesterday was our campaign for environment. And the reason Dr. Barton couldn't be there was because he was at the White House, having been invited by President Biden because of all the climate work he's done that will be helped with the Inflation Reduction Act. So anyway, it's kind of a small world, and it's really neat how we can all interact together. Jack, let's talk about what you do in the world of economic justice and your concept for conscious business. That is something that can be used all over, and probably in some places already is, but we need to make it bigger, right?
Yeah, right. And it does fit in here, of course. Like the Poor People's Campaign. I mean, so many people are doing all that they can to try to make that situation better. But if we don't have a long-term plan to create a new economy, it's going to be just keep on going and going and going. So I think, well, first I'm going to start a little preamble here of what I'm going to talk about. And that is like what Martin Luther King has said and been often quoted. If we want peace, we need to be able to organize as well as those who want war. And so my project is very much into the realization that if we really want an economy that works for all, then we have to get extremely well organized and collaborative. So what I'm getting at, I'll get back to the idea that what I'm working with is kind of an international thing. There's all sorts, like the mission statement says they're working towards a world that works for all. I have a hard time understanding how that can happen without an economy that works for all. And that goes for Uganda and Ghana and these other, Africa. I mean, the whole world. There's just so many people that it's not working for. And in fact, it's the people who are running basically the economy of the planet have no interest, no desire to create an economy that works for all. That's not what they're doing. In fact, they're doing quite the opposite. They're trying to take from other people so that they can have more. And oftentimes they're not really caring whether they take so much that the people they're taking it from have no way of really living a decent life. And of course, and many of them, like, I think it's something like 60 million people a year die of starvation, not to mention, hundreds of millions, if not over a billion, that have a shortage of food. So I think that's something we obviously got to look at, and how do we approach that? The good news is that there is a movement, a global movement. I don't know if it's in every country, but it's a global movement. What we call it in the United States is the, well, let's see, oh my God, it's called SEN, or the Solidarity Economy Movement, or Economy Network. And basically that's what it's called in the United States, but it exists around the world. And off the top of my head right now, I don't recall what it's called, but they're all coordinated together. They're all organized together as best they can. And so there is a lot of these people doing that. And there's another organization called New Economy Coalition. And then you can look at the intentional communities. They're basically working on economies, and especially like in the US, we had a federation for egalitarian communities, in which the communities have a business or more, and then everybody in the community shares the income equally. And even those who aren't actually working in the business, because what they're doing sometimes is working in the gardens, they're doing the caretaking for the children and building maybe and maintaining the housing. And of course, in a similar sense, the global, let's see, the global, well, it's a global intentional community network. For some reason, I'm having trouble with a couple words here today.
Anesthesia,
Anyway,
the remnants of anesthesia.
maybe I have been thinking about this one. Well, I think it's called the Global Economy Network. Well, anyway, it's a very big organization, and it's worldwide. And they're setting up these communities, and it's for a good environment, making sure everybody has a place to stay and food and whatever. So they're a part of this, and they're a big part of it. And it would be a good idea for people looking for help to get involved with. It's GEN, G-E-N, or the intentional community. It's called the Federation of Intentional Communities, and that's IC.org. And I'm trying to think if there is a GEN group. I know there are some in Africa, and I'm not sure if there's any in Uganda or Ghana or which countries they're in. But they are there, and you might want to look into that for some help. And the best I can do for you right now with that is it's called, if you do a search on GEN, and I think it's gen.org as well.
Maybe you could look it up later, and then we could ping Robert about it.
Yeah, let's do that. Matter of fact. Okay, so it's a global eco-village network. Finally came to me. But anyway, they do exist, and they do very good things, and they are connected. So I would look at that and see if there are any in that area of Africa. So what my project is basically about is how to contribute to that effort to build a worldwide economy that works for all. And what I am doing, and at the same time, looking at how we build conscious businesses, because we want our business to be conscious. And the way that I am approaching that as our contribution is to support conscious businesses that already exist. And the basic way of trying to do that is doing a lot of research and putting together databases on all the conscious businesses that exist. And that's not just the US, that's around the world. And it is an effort, around the world effort. And then of course, we need to search and find who are the conscious purchasers, buyers, like the networks that we work with, like the We organization. And then of course, like Equity Earth, which is helping put on various events like World Unity Week and things like that, and the Sign Network. Anyway, the networks that we're connected with, that we is connected with, that, if one wanted a list, we could probably arrange to have that. But that is, we have to find the shoppers who are conscious and want us to support conscious businesses and put together databases. The idea being that people all know that it's good to support conscious business, but it's not always easy to find them. They don't know who is who. Some are pretending to be. And so we don't do it all that often, most of us, and certainly don't do it in a very organized way. And the idea is, if we can get all of us together, all the conscious businesses together, and all the conscious people that want to shop consciously together, put them into databases and have them be able to get in touch with each other, and therefore be able to help each other and be able to, I guess, shop consciously with our money. And the way I look at that as well is that a lot of us, and I'm looking at people who are at least somewhat prosperous. This particular thing doesn't necessarily fit for people who are really poor. But we all spend a certain amount of money all the time on our wants and needs. And like here in the US, for instance, pretty much everybody spends at least tens of thousands of dollars on that. And we say we don't have investment capital. Well, yes, we do. We have the money we spend on our wants and needs. We just have to be spending that with people who are conscious business owners and keeping that money in the community and passing it around with each other. And of course, at the current time, there are not nearly enough conscious businesses to, produce a very large result. Certainly nowhere near the number needed to be able to serve what the demand will be from the expectations of what this project can produce.
So that's why you've been getting involved with World Unity Week too, and you're meeting other movers and shakers around the world, so it's a great opportunity to connect with people like Ben Bowler and Kurt Johnson and all of that. And Peter, I know you came to one of our meetings. What did you think of that when you came and saw those people there from all over, being people, our kind of people, and thinking our kind of thoughts and wanting to do our kind of work?
Yes, it was very moving to see all the different people from all over the world. I it was so new to me that it was hard to understand what everyone was doing.
I know, I know. When I first joined We the World too, I thought, oh my gosh, how I remember all of this. But now I'm starting to know, oh yeah, she does that, he does that.
But I think it helps me realize just that, as Jack was saying, that, just the huge amount of power we have. I mean, obviously, people who spend money, who are prosperous, use a huge amount of a carbon footprint compared to the poor, but still we have incredible amounts of power just in our buying power. So I think that that's really similar to what the Poor People's Campaign is about. And I know there's like there's fair trade fairs and so forth, but that seems, mostly for coffee and for
Yeah.
art things. But I think it's just, it's just another way to really, and in the Poor People's Campaign, it's all about changing the narrative and building power. So building power through just economic networks.
And giving voice to people who don't feel they have a voice. And so it's definitely grassroots, ground up. And but with World Unity Week, it seems to be people who are more up there, and well, I don't mean up there in a bad sense, but they're just more, they're somehow better connected. And the idea is bringing the silos together, which is Rick's goal too, is to bring the silos together. And I might mention that almost all of these people are great friends with Rick, because Rick has really established an amazing reputation in the world of wanting a better world for all. And since he's been sick, it's been so nice to see him get that kind of attention. Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Jack for the work that he's doing. I know in the community that I live in, the idea of economic justice plays out, because we know that as the playing field is currently comprised, a lot of the inequities in the current economic system are disproportionately placed on poor and low income people. Working folks are exploited. The campaign is pro-union. We're pro-living wage wherever you reside in the world. And the idea that corporations are individuals, we reject that. Corporations are groups of individuals, and they too have a moral, ethical, and stake in the progress of we as a species. And any discussions that separate those into highfalutin concepts so people can hide behind their own little petty things, ego, greed, all those negatives, is not what unity is about, and is not what being the global community, beloved community that King talks about, is not what is the kind of world that we can afford to sustain. Mother Nature will not allow that. Economically, it's unsustainable. And we have too many people in need everywhere who are not getting their needs met, and that is unsustainable and troubling for for political reasons as well. It leads to all kinds of instabilities. So I like to just kind of turn it back around to the very basic things that we talk about in the campaign, across the Poor People's Campaign. And that's those 5 interlocking injustices that we see time and time again that pop up in the world. And we've talked about environmental degradation. We talk about militarism, the war economy. We talk about systemic racism and systemic poverty. That is all tied into the economic systems and the controls that we support tacitly or positively in our systems that govern us. So, we talk about false moral narratives of religious nationalism that too many places in the world suffer from. So all of these things, and I'm sorry, Janet and Peter, because we talk about this quite a bit in the campaign, but by way of explanation,
we have to talk about it.
By way of explanation, Jack, we find solidarity with you in the work that you and your folks are doing, working in that section. making people aware that their money does have power, as well as where they spend their time. Where we spend our treasure is important as well. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I'm just amazed at the work that everybody does. The more people I meet, the more I'm amazed and in wonderment and in appreciation and gratitude for all the people who are such hard workers, whether they have big names or not. Just everybody's effort. Brian, Peter, do you know how many people came to Washington, D.C.?
Now see, I am not going to get pinned down on that number.
But I mean, it was lots and lots and lots.
Always. The call goes out. Those that have the ear to hear it, show up, do this work, become engaged, communicate, break down these silos, make the world a small village, the global village that Jack talked about. One of the things about technology is for a certain segment of us, it makes it a lot easier. But I do also want to point out that, again, one of the challenges is to make this a global village so that every person, every human being has opportunity and access to talk to, folks around the globe, just like we're doing here.
Right. Even you can be there at the rallies. You can be like me. I'm always a virtual person, and and that's what I can do. And so I'll be I like signing up for the text banking and the virtual volunteering and the digital engagement and helping with social media, and all that. There's something that everybody can do to help. I wanted to say that Brian, you wouldn't know this, neither would you, Jack, but Peter, remember we have a little bit of a homeless coalition that we've been working on, and we go in and out because everybody's got so much to do. And I invited my friend, who's your friend now, Sage Lewis, who's been is in Akron, and oh my gosh, boy. He really gives it his all. He's had a tent encampment on his property in Akron, fairly close to downtown Akron. And
yeah, I'm familiar with him. He's been doing great work down there, and against the local political power structure down there, against some of the bigger merchants and stuff. That strikes close to my heart. Yes, I was just about to mention the tragedy of the murder of
Jalen Walker.
Yes,
and then other people too. Yeah. Well, his encampment got shut down.
Yes, yeah, and we condemned. I'm not saying. Let me back up. I inhabit a bunch of other spaces other than Poor People's Campaign. I'm engaged with homeless issues here in the Cuyahoga County, Cleveland area, Northeast Ohio in general, and all across the state in solidarity with the plight of those who are unhoused. And personally, myself and in other groups that I work with condemn the Summit County Office of Homeless Services and the city of Akron on how they shut down people helping people. Your friend had a homeless encampment. There was another gentleman downtown that was providing proper pay and a place for folks to stay who had building trades and were rehabbing a building, and the city shut that down. And this is I like to remind myself that there's so much injustice in the world that we shouldn't be overwhelmed by it. We should take that as a challenge and know that we can make so much great change in the world, sometimes just by looking closest to home and not overlook that. And if everybody in the world locked arms and took a broom out and cleaned up that space right where they're standing.
That's exactly what Sage says. Yeah.
Imagine how clean and quickly the world would change if we recognized that what's going on in my hometown, in my community, and my challenges is not so radically different than Dr. Robert has in dealing with over in Uganda, than those poor folks that are having to deal with the situation in the Ukraine, to those folks that are dealing with the situation in Tibet. I mean, it just beggars the mind, but we can't let that stop us. It gets me jazzed up. As you can see, I'm getting all,
I know, same,
because the
same
spirit,
here.
the spirit and the forces that I serve, and the reason why I believe we are given this beautiful gift of life is to promote life and to spread that word and that love. Hate and darkness can only be conquered by love, and in order to love your fellow man, you've got to meet them, know them, talk to them, embrace them, sit down, eat, and drink with them. So let me just stop. You can tell I'm a pastor's kid. I'm over here giving a homily, and we actually have real ministers on the panel.
Yeah,
So
well,
let me step back, Brother Peter, and
Peter,
yield to you.
oh, well, thank you, Brian. And Peter, you are out in the community every day too, aren't you?
Yes, we as Dr. Barber says, there's a remnant everywhere. So no matter where you go, there's someone who has a heart for justice. And I think that's true. I think wherever you go, and if there's any Ugandan refugees in Cleveland, and they wanted to protest with us in solidarity with what's going on in Uganda now, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. But that's kind of a dream I have. So,
Well, and Cleveland certainly is, what they used to call cities like New York City and Cleveland a melting pot. But like I learned in one of my sociology classes, it's really like a giant tossed salad, because there are the tomatoes and there are the cucumbers and the carrots and everything, so that you can see the individual items in the salad. It's not smooshed. Well, I mean, some of it smooshes, but some of it is there, so you can identify it. And Robert, one more thing that I want to say before we go. Music is a big way to sharing the joy of helping and feeling gratitude and engaging other people. And Jack, I don't know if there are any great songs about conscious business, but I know
I haven't written them yet.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, well, you could get your ukulele out maybe and come up with a ditty or two. But I know for Robert in Uganda, and I know he has his video off so that he can, hear us and be a part of it. But music is big with the Poor People's Campaign, and I call it Theomusicology, and they're always a little catchy tune. I'm always playing. I can't sing, so don't ask me, but I hear them in my head, and everybody's got a right to live, and all those great songs that we hear. And then I wish I would have thought to have this shared, but Robert provided, because he works with the Kabengo youth and is very involved with that, of course. And there's a really great video that I'll have to put on our We Can page on Facebook. And these children are doing this music with this really amazing leader, musical leader. And it's just so amazing watching the kids, just knowing exactly where they're at and being able to watch the leader. Well, anyone have any final thoughts before we go? I know we got a little bit of a late start. My boyfriend just got home. A little bit of a late start, and so I want to make sure that everybody has a, final words of wisdom or anything before we go. Whoever went. Okay, Jack. Yeah, words of wisdom.
Yeah, just basically, the whole thing comes down to how well we can organize and collaborate. I think that's the number one thing we got to work at, because if we can do that, we can do almost anything. And there's this group that maybe some of you have heard of, the evolutionary leaders, and in their 2-page Google document about what they do. And these are high-profile people that know a lot about what's going on.
Well, Rick's one of them.
Yeah. So the conscious leaders, they say that we have all the resources we need to live a much better life. So I'm not going to pin the problem on the resources. I'm going to pin the problem on our inability to get sufficiently organized to use them in a way that can create a new economy. And just quickly here, one way of creating new businesses is you get organized enough and get enough data collected. Then what you do is figure out what are you going to buy next year. It's kind of like maybe you've heard of a community, let's see, CSA, community supported agriculture. And basically what they do is people pay in advance. In other words, they are promising to buy this much food. So the farmer has the money in that case, can go out and prepare and make the food, and then they get their food. Well, we could do this in a lot of other areas. We have to get people organized enough to where they can say, okay, I'm going to buy this much hardware next year. And if enough people get together, then we can start a new conscious business in hardware. And they know they can start it, because most people don't start it because they have a history of failure. But in this case, we minimize the risk and they can start them. And we can do this over and over again until we have created a rather large economy that is totally controlled by us, the people.
Supply
who want a
meets
world that works
demand.
for all.
Yeah, I like
I'm
that.
done.
Robert, do you have final words of wisdom for us?
Thank you.
Oh, our connection's not good.
Very much for this one.
He's saying thank you for giving him this opportunity, I believe.
Yeah, you can turn your video off and you might get enough power so we can hear your voice.
Yeah, try that. Well, I will say until he is able to speak.
Opportunity. We are. Yes.
Keep going.
You can hear me?
Yes, we hear you much better now.
Yes. Thank you for this opportunity. And I would like to say, we are all born to help each other, no matter how difficult it is. Life is good when you are happy.
And when you have your
But
beautiful
much
baby
better
Deborah.
when others are happy. Yes, because of you. So
Thank you,
when I
Robert.
see someone, assume I'm the one. And so if we can try to integrate, to involve other people in what we are doing, and we help them to go to have life in its fullness. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Robert. Thank you so much for being here. It's such a joy to know you, and I love talking to you every week. And once again, for Robert, I'll say he could use help. So please, we.net/donate. That would be wonderful. And Brian, any words of wisdom?
Yeah, I just, again, am grateful to have this opportunity to speak on behalf of my siblings and the campaigns and be a part of meeting freedom and justice and activists and organizers around the world that are doing what in my faith tradition we call God's work. And I just want to thank people like Rick and Jana for being good stewards and bringing together what Rick talks, when I and you come together, that's how we become a we. And that's what this is about, that what we've all been talking about, wherever we're standing, breaking down those silos, making and doing the work and being there to intentionally communicate in love and justice, and to speak those words and to do the work that's required to make the world a better place for all of us, regardless of our ability or access to power.
Or
So,
lack thereof.
yeah.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Brian. You're a tireless worker. I know you are. You're always doing something, and I admire that. Thank you, Jack, for being here after surgery. That's fairly impressive. I know, having been through it. Thank you, Robert, for being here. And Peter, although I think he had to go. So this has been a truly inspiring discussion. Thank you for being part of our 11 Days of Global Unity 2022. Here's where we hold up 3 fingers. Everybody has to do it. This is not the Girl Scout promise. 3 fingers. It's all about we. We go from a me society to a we society. So together we can create a world that works for all. Go to we.net to get involved. And as we do at Poor People's Campaign, forward together. Not one step back.
Let me come off mute. Forward together,
Not one step
not
back.
one step back, not one
Exactly. Usually we do it 3 times, but
forward together,
not one
not one
step back.
step back. You know,
Forward together, not one step back. So we do that for a while. We have a great time with that, and
because we believe when you live from the bottom, everybody rises. We don't leave
And-
anybody behind.
and we get energized. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You've been wonderful. I think we've talked about a lot of great stuff, and go out into the world, be safe and healthy and happy. Bye-bye.
Peace all.